Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Public Works and Transportation Committee for the City of Oxnard. Tonight, December 10th. Madam Clerk, do we...
Member Valenzuela,
Present.
Member Zaragoza,
Here.
Chair Perello.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board on December 3rd, 2024.
Thank you very much. Tonight, we'll have David, one of our translators, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll take a moment of silence. It's 3 days late, but Pearl Harbor Day is a big day in this country. And with world events, it becomes even bigger.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Chair Perello, we do not have any public speakers, virtually or in person, for this item.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, consent agenda. C1, approval of the minutes. That the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes for November 26th, regular meeting as presented. Members of the committee, do you have any changes, recommendations, or views you want to express?
I don't, sir.
No, I move the recommended action.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. And there's no public comments on this, Madam Clerk?
No public speakers for this item.
Thank you.
Member Valenzuela,
Aye.
Member Zaragoza,
Aye.
Chair Perello.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, reports, Public Works Department. The subject, purchase order with Quinn for backhoe loader for street maintenance. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to approve the purchase order with Quinn for a not-to-exceed amount, for not-to-exceed value of $204,678.35 for the purchase of a backhoe loader for street maintenance. There is a Measure M presentation, which is not going to be viewed tonight. Public Works Director Michael Wolf is the present person. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
Chair Perello, we do not have any public speakers for this item, virtually or in person. Thank you.
Do my committee members have any questions?
Yeah, my understanding is, Mr. Chair, that this backhoe is 2001 John Deere and backhoe and loader. And one of the things that staff is recommending that we replace is because here at the end of 2025, it's no longer it's going to comply with CARB. Is that correct? Which is, I think, is something new for all equipment of a certain weight and so forth. Is that correct?
Good evening. Philip Schweider, Public Works Streets Manager. Yes, correct. It needs to meet the CARBs per the California regulations.
Regulations. And also my understanding also that it's going to need parts that no longer are going to be available, or is that correct, or am I reading this wrong?
There will be updates as it moves along within the system, but certainly the city is trying to meet the standards based on the standards that are coming through.
So it's probably better to purchase one than to try to accommodate. Michael?
Yeah, I think your comment, Mr. Mayor, in the staff report, we talk about two reasons why we want to replace this. One is that the air quality standards are not going to be met with this old existing piece of equipment, and the other part is that piece of equipment requires lots of maintenance and parts associated with it. So there's two reasons why we're recommending replacing it. So I think that was your comment about making repairs to the old.
So it just makes sense to replace it, because by the time you try and replace it, it reminds me of when I was in charge of VR, we had truck 163, and we replaced monies and monies after monies and transmissions and frames and so forth. After a while, we could have bought a brand-new truck, trying to repair that truck, and it still broke down.
Right, so part of that is making sure that we're not spending money, spending a lot on repairs when a newer vehicle will be much more efficient from standpoint. And also, the newer equipment has a lot more safety
Safety.
devices, things like that. So as you can imagine, just like regular vehicles that are on the street, the safety
Right.
devices that get added to these vehicles. The big push here is that the Air Regulatory Board is identifying these internal combustion engines that aren't going to meet their emissions requirements, and so they would fine us. We would get fines basically if we don't take these vehicles out of service.
And Mr. Chair, and the CARB requires equipment after a certain weight, correct?
So that is the zero emission vehicle conversation that we
okay.
had. Yeah, we had that about this time last year where we had to make a decision about which one of the options we were going to choose for zero emission vehicles. And you're correct, Mr. Mayor, that that program is based off of vehicle weight. So certain vehicles of a certain weight or more fall into that category, and then we have to look at replacing them with zero emission vehicles.
Zero emissions, yeah. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. A few questions. The individuals that operate this, these are people for as long, it's a 2001, 23, 24-year-old piece of equipment. But the people that operate it, we don't put people that are not qualified to operate these things. And the reason I asked that, and I shouldn't have asked it that way, do we make sure that the people that operate these equipment are trained to operate this equipment?
Very much so. We have equipment operators that are certified, and we do have some training to get them up to par with utilizing these pieces of equipment.
And the people that are operating the equipment and are certified to operate this John Deere, will they go through a training to operate this Caterpillar?
Yes, sir. We do have periodic training with heavy equipment on all our equipment.
Okay. And in the process of the training and maintaining the maintenance, and I appreciate your response, in the process of maintaining it, can we determine if there are some drivers that are a little more hard on equipment than others?
There can be operators that do operate equipment harder than they should, but we closely monitor that aspect of the equipment that we do have.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure the committee, but the residents of Oxnard, I'm sure will too. The last question, maybe not the last, maybe the second to last. The item will not meet the CARB, so when we release this item, are we going to be required to release it out of state?
I'll answer that question. So we do have a process for selling off vehicles. That process goes to the purchasing folks, and we sell it to an auctioneer. Where they take it, they have to meet the requirements, so they may sell it outside California if it's not going to meet current requirements. But once we give it to the auctioneer, it's theirs to follow the requirements based on whatever the state will require.
Okay, and then the last question. In going through that process, we don't get a trade-in value from Caterpillar when we buy a new one from Caterpillar?
No, not in this instance, because the city's purchasing this particular piece of equipment through a cooperative agreement, Sourcewell, and we're piggybacking on the terms and conditions. So we're already getting a discount, and that's separate and apart from returning the current vehicle that we have or sending it over to auction.
With some of the new, and this is not a question, with just a suggestion, with some of the new people coming on council, how this piece of equipment, being this is the last committee meeting with the standing committee that we have now, what transpires in that auction? Can we have a report back to the committee, the full council? What did we get for the piece of equipment? And at the same time, can we just put on the, I know there are some people that are coming on board that are very concerned about costs and where monies are going. Can we put on whatever value we have on that piece of equipment and what return we got through the auction? I just hope it's a suggestion. I don't need an answer, but it's a suggestion, strong suggestion.
Yeah, I could talk to the finance director. That process goes through his department in terms of selling off the vehicles through that auctioneering process.
Thank you very much. Do we have any is there further questions by committee or from the public?
Chair Perella, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for this item.
Thank you very much. Is there a recommendation from the committee?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Second.
Thank you. And Mr. Schweber?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
response, and thank you for your work here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, can we call for the vote?
Member Valenzuela,
Aye.
Member Zaragoza,
Aye.
Chair Perella.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Number 2 on the agenda. The annual purchase orders for Performance Nursery Incorporated for the supply of plant material specifications number 25-12. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to execute annual purchase orders with Performance Nursery Incorporated from December 18th, 2024 through December 12th, 2029, for a total not to exceed amount of $500,000 for the supply of plant materials. Please click the following link to view the required Measure M, as there was a presentation but will not be shown tonight. And the contact person is Michael Wolf. And do we have any public comments on this, Madam Clerk?
We do not have any public speakers for this item, virtually or in person. Thank you.
Okay, and I see prepared by Mr. Howlett and Mr. Miller. Do we have any questions by the committee?
I was reading over the, and also listening to the report that we we're buying, not potentially, we are buying plants that are too small for a contractor to take care of. And also the other thing is you're buying this material to make it more efficient, more on a timely basis, and more in a blanket type purchase as opposed to going and buying a little bit at a time. Is that correct? I understand what I'm trying to say here.
Good evening,
Can you-
committee. And yes, Mr. Mayor, so that process is, the intention of this is to allow for those types of purchases that if we do have, so these, in an ideal situation, a staff member would notice a situation in case we may need plant material or we have a project planned and we have staffing available to take care of that project rather than having to go through the entire process of estimating out with a contractor that we have potentially on board that may take weeks or months, or if there's an urgent need or something along those lines. This allows us to make purchases at nurseries rather than having to go through a hardware store like Home Depot or Lowe's that may not carry the types of plants we're looking for or the quality of the material that we're looking for.
But this way you have a blanket agreement, so you can go out and purchase those items and make it more efficient and get done more in an immediate manner.
Correct.
And I also noticed that you had an RFP, request for bid went out too, and you had a couple of bids, the Performance Nursery and Cameo Nursery, which I think most of the council members kind of like that, to go out for bids, to potentially get the lowest bidder and really make it more efficient as far as our spending our funds. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you very much. I think the mayor hits it right on the head. I think most residents in Oxnard, if it's going to be an item, and the two bids were $2,900 and $3,600, I think most residents in Oxnard, if it's going to be in that price range, they might travel to a couple different stores to check the price. So I'm sure they appreciate us doing it on this small of a thing, let alone on the big ones. And I'm grateful we have a staff that's a policy that we follow and we abide by. With these purchases, is the plan that when we need something, we tell them what we need and they deliver it, or we go pick it up, or how does that work?
We can do it either way. They can deliver, delivery is part of the solicitation, or we can pick it up if they have in stock.
So if we pick it up, we save a little bit and we leave our bank account a little fuller.
Correct.
Bingo. Okay. I have no questions other than that.
Mr. Chair, if I just want to add something to this. I think it's important to note kind of the reasons behind some of these things. So Anthony's team and Steve has looked at some of the places where we constantly get comments from our customers. And one of the things that Anthony can probably speak to and Steve can speak to is we often get that we're not very responsive from a timely standpoint. It takes us a long time to do certain things. And with these kinds of activities, what Anthony has identified is an opportunity for his team to be more responsive, faster, if you will, to respond to some of these issues. And these kinds of purchase orders allow him to save a few weeks or a few months having to go through one-off solicitations or procurement process by doing it one time at a larger scale, so that he saves that amount of time every time he wants to go and get the plant material. So I think this is looked at from my perspective of a lens of saving time to be responsive to our customers that constantly make those comments like, why does it take so long to do X, or why does it take so long to do Y? You know, we have our procurement policies in place for checks and balances, and they're needed, but sometimes we look at these opportunities for us to save some time by doing it on a much larger scale, bringing it in front of the committee and council so that we can respond to our customers. So I want to make sure we bring that to the forefront, that's one of the purposes that Anthony and Steve have looked at, trying to get these activities done at a faster pace.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I hope if this does go to council, if it does, that point is reiterated. One of our council members asked it. If not, make sure that I get a nudge and I'll ask it, give you an opportunity to explain to the public what we're doing. Do we have a recommendation by the committee?
No speakers on this item, man.
We do not have any speakers, virtually or in person, for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I was trying not to make a mistake.
I'm sorry. Move approval.
I'll second that. Thank you. Call the vote, please, Madam Clerk. And again, thank you, Mayor. I'm batting 1,000.
Member Valenzuela.
Aye.
Member Zaragoza.
Aye.
Chair Perillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and thank you, Mr. Howlett. It's good to see your wing is working. So, moving on to the next item, number 3, Public Works Department, subject. Agreement number 325-00236 with Downstream Services Incorporated for stormwater filter replacement and maintenance services, specifications number PW24-90. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize an agreement with Downstream Services Incorporated for a term of 1 year from January 22nd, 2025 to January 21st on 2026 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,250,000 for stormwater filter replacement and maintenance services. Again, there's a Measure M presentation, will not be seen tonight due to what Measure M says. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this?
Chair Perillo, we do not have any public speakers for this item.
Thank you. Committee members, do we have any questions?
The question I have is, you have filtration units for storm drain and catch basins. How many do you have? As a multitude of them, right? It's a unit number 25, 24, and so on.
So, again, good evening. It's the storm drain units that are in question for this particular solicitation are for the 3 areas within CFDs 2, 4, and 5. So Westport, Seabridge, and River Park. Specifically, we have between the 2 harbor CFDs, we have 821 cartridges. So that's Westport and Seabridge combined. And in River Park alone, there's 2,274.
That many?
Correct.
Oof, my goodness. Absolutely. But to me, it's fascinating, all the filtration.
It's a lot. Since we're talking about so many things and so many numbers and the volume, can you just, because of Measure M, can you give a little bit of a presentation, what they do, why we have them, what are the ramifications if we don't filter the water? I know that the people at Seabridge are real aware of what happens to the water in the harbor if we don't filter it in with what's going on.
So I can, I'll stick with what is in the staff report here, in that
Well, I'm not asking you to go out of bounds, believe me, I'm not asking that.
the primary purpose of these storm drain filtration units is to filter the storm water within the actual, the gutter, for example, and treat it before it re-enters the watershed. So these particular developments were built with what are called construction best management practices, or construction BMPs, which is what this particular system is. It is a vault of stormwater filters, which is a carbon filtration unit that basically, when the stormwater flows into it, it flows through these filters, it collects the items within the actual water itself, and then after it passes through these filters, it's then released into the main storm drain system. And eventually it goes into the Santa Clara River or the harbor out of the waterways.
Are the filters replaceable as far as recyclable? Do they clean up and you put them back in service, or are they disposable?
They are recyclable. However, the process typically involves essentially uncapping them and then sucking everything out of them, cleaning it all out, and then potentially we'll take a recycled cartridge and put it back in rather than an entirely new cartridge. Those cartridges are typically sent back to the manufacturer, which is Contec, and Contec refurbishes cartridges so that way they're consistently reusing them.
We have a good relationship with that company and you're satisfied with their product?
So we do not actually directly contract with Contec. They're just the original manufacturers of these individual devices. The company downstream, which would be we were recommending award this bid to, they will be the ones who contact directly with who are in contact directly with Contec. I cannot speak specifically to the product itself outside of this particular process because this is a requirement that was put in place during the construction of the developments for stormwater filtration.
Thank you for the explanation, I appreciate it. Any other questions by committee? I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
Madam Clerk, vote please.
And we do not have any public speakers for this item, virtually or in person.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Member Valenzuela?
Aye.
Member Zaragoza?
Aye.
Chair Perrello?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
thank you, Mr. Hallett, Mr. Miller, thank you. Item number 4. This is item number 4. Trade Services Agreement 325-00292 with Commodity Trucking and Acquisition, LLC, doing business as Tri-County Transportation for backfill and resurfacing material sales, delivery, and haul-away services. The recommendation, the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Commodity Trucking Acquisition, LLC, DBA, Tri-County Transportation for an initial term of 1 year from January 8, 2025 through January 7, 2026, with the option to extend for 4 consecutive 1-year periods ending January 7, 2030, for a total contract amount not to exceed $1 million for backfill and resurfacing material sales, delivery, and haul-away services. Again, there is a Measure M presentation. We will not be seeing it. This is a night presentation. We have Mr. Michael Wolf, and we also have Mr. Tim Beeman as his Assistant Public Works Director if we have questions. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on this item?
Chair Perrello, we do not have any public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any?
Yeah, the question I have is, the reason we use Tri-County for backfill materials and resurface materials is because they have the proper equipment to haul that to wherever we need it, as opposed to us having that type of equipment, like trucks that haul the gravel or asphalt or whatever. Is that why we contract with them instead? Is it probably cheaper too? Is that correct?
Yes, good evening, Chair Perrello, committee members. My name is Tim Beeman, Assistant Director of Public Works. So with this contract, Tri-County actually delivers bulk materials to our yard. So there was a photo in the presentation that shows certain bays in each one. We keep everything separated because it does go into how we compact around our pipes for these sorts of repairs. So they not only deliver those specific materials with their large trucks, but they also remove any spoils that we have from pipe repairs of what was already existing in the ground.
And the spoils, do they have a certain place that they go to, or is it back to their yard, or do they have a yard? I'm sure they do.
They definitely have a yard, yes.
Okay. I don't have much more.
There's an opportunity for you, some people might think, well, hey, you dug a hole, fill the hole up with what you dug out of the hole. Please explain why you put certain materials around pipes when you install the pipes and things.
Certainly, and so construction methods over the years have changed a little bit, and nowadays when we do install a new portion of pipe, we are very aware of what we're putting back into the ground. So I've been on projects before where you can pull up bottles and bits of concrete, those types of things. But in the way we do it now, we actually, depending on the type of pipe or the application, we put in a particular material. We put sand around the pipe itself, so that avoids any particular pressure points. And then we will use a base fill material, and that helps us get the compaction to make sure that once we're out of that area and we repave, we don't have that part of the land subsiding down any further.
And it also, just in my experience with pipelines, it also helps when you put something that treats the pipe much tenderer versus just putting, say, rocks or gravel or something, because eventually the pipes do have movement, and when waters flow back and forth, they don't jump around, but they move, and something can wear on the pipe, and all of a sudden you got a problem. So
Yes,
I appreciate that explanation. In the process, when there was a consideration, was out for requests for, are there many people that are in this business?
So there are a fair number of people that are in this business, and we did reach out to, the local ones that we know of and have worked with in the past. But for this particular item, we did only receive one bid.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with the public here. The recommendation, do we have any further questions by the public at all?
We do not have any public speakers for this item. Thank you.
What is the recommendation of the committee?
I move the recommended action.
Second.
I'll call for the vote, please.
Member Valenzuela,
Aye.
Member Zaragoza,
Aye.
Chair Perrello.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries 3-0.
thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Beeman. Last item on the agenda, any suggestions for future agenda items?
I don't, but I'd like to say a couple of words.
Yes, for sure.
I just want to thank, I know this is my last committee meeting, and I just want to thank Public Works, our city manager, our staff, our legal, and for all the work that you do. I know that sometimes individuals have the idea that we should contract everything out. And I know some cities that are fully contract cities compared to a full-service city. But I believe that what we have here in Oxnard, we work with contractors. We work with the equipment that's needed. But this way, I think we maintain control of cost. And I remember when I was in charge of refuse ER now, I had many contractors come over and talk to us about contracting out. And they come out and lowball for a couple of years, write it off and so forth. And once the competition is gone, up goes the rates. So I just forewarn, and I've been in this business around the block many years, and I just want to commend our city manager, our administration, for the good work that you guys do. And I will say it over again, this is probably my last time, and I said it with other committee members, that this is probably the best city council that I've worked with, one of the best, and one of the best administrations that I've worked with. So I want to commend Public Works, Parks, and ER, and the streets, and everything that you do in Public Works. Excellent work. We're not perfect by no means. Nobody is. But I just want to commend you on my behalf And I want you to continue that good work because I'm going to live here a couple more years more,
200 more.
200 more. And my family's going to be here, my kids are going to be here, and we love it here. Mr. Chair, I just want to commend you and thank you so much. And I mentioned that earlier also with our clerk, and our staff, for a good run city. And I know you're going to have new people come in with new ideas, which is okay, but I just want to share with you that I believe we probably have one of the best operations that I've had the opportunity to serve with. And thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, I also want to echo some of the words of Mayor Zaragoza. None of this happens without our hardworking staff who's so dedicated to making sure our residents receive the best quality services we can provide. And I look forward to seeing what this committee and the council and the staff will do once we're through the whole bond litigation issue. I know there's a lot of growth and potential here. So thank you all for all your work.
Thank you.
I'd like to make comments about that, but the specific item on the agenda is items for future agenda. I hope that we get the button vote system up and running ASAP, so there's an opportunity for the people to vote and the public to see how they're voting without having to listen to how everybody else votes. So it's more of a, as the system was designed. My comments. I've been very fortunate to chair this and to serve with Councilmember Valenzuela and Mayor Zaragoza. It has been disappointing in that the public never shows up. And on those occasions that the public does show up, we're grateful even when they're coming after us. We try to get them the best answer we can. I don't believe that I'm going out on a limb at all in saying this. Public service is a profession. A lot of people don't think so. I think it's an easy job. If we just take current events, and I'll play the information giver and then the devil's advocate on this also. We had a fire and have a fire in Malibu. We have a fire in Oxnard, 3 potential homes. We saved, nobody got hurt here. Amazing. Wind blowing. We've had homicides. The police try to do the best they can. You can't have a policeman at every corner, at every house, at every moment. And human beings, what they are, there's a lot of people that cross the line. And I'll be the devil's advocate. A recent homicide in New York where they took out a very prominent business person, and I've heard many comments, wow, I wish they worked that fast on my case. I can understand that view, but I'm sure the people that are looking for killers in our city or anywhere else, they're putting their efforts. Some cases are extremely high profile. How the news handles things has a lot to do with that. And I see the city attorney recommending there, but
I think
I want to make sure.
it's not
We're
on the
straying
agenda.
a little too far here. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
I
not on-
want to make sure that I thank the people that are working in public works because I do believe that we can always do things cheaper. We can always do things cheaper, but you get what you pay for, and you're going to be doing it twice. And I also strongly believe the person that's taking care of the water that I drink, and as I went through that Christmas parade this Saturday, and I saw all these people who, maybe I know 15, 20 of those people. There's a heck of a lot of people that are counting on that water to be pure and clean. And the capitalist system where it is, if we go for the cheapest cost, we could have a problem. And I appreciate the people that work for our city, not just the managers, not the top dogs, but the guys at the very bottom too. No one is perfect. Perfection is not perfect. And as experienced by our law enforcement, when they find a bad apple, they're gone. So things happen in this city, and a lot of it has to do with the men and women that work in the city. And the men and women that work in this city deserve to get paid. And a lot of people want to cut costs. Where they cut costs is something that I believe is going to be an awakening for people that are coming on this council. And those are my views, because I think that if a person works for the city of Oxnard, they should also be able to live in the city of Oxnard. Thank you very much. Those are my, and Madam Clerk, thank you very much for keeping me in line and asking for the public comment and getting the minutes signed and everything else. The very best in the future for you, and the same with the gentleman on each side of me. I
Thank
hope
you so
have-
much, Chair Perrello. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so
And,
much.
I
All the
hope the
best to
three-
you as well.
I hope the three of you get to run your feet in the ocean sometime, have a cold one, watch the sun go up or sun down, and make some more memories, because you're still all young. You're all
Thank you so
young.
much. It means a
Merry
lot.
Christmas and Happy New Year to all.
Happy holidays. Stay safe.
And Mr. Howlett, it's good to see it working. Thank you very much. Good night. The meeting's adjourned.